Sir, I'm not the girl in the swing. It's actually my sister, Tommy, and then Tommy in the sandbox.
You good, bro?
What's going on, everybody? I'm Nick.
And I'm Joe.
And we're Nick and Joe. This is the third time we've recorded the intro for this video because our audio situation was getting messed up. So I should say, welcome to an all-new episode of the K-Drama Club, where we talk about the K-Drama Startup. We've been watching Startup on Netflix from episode 1 all the way now to episode 12. And if that's something that you're into, maybe this is the first time tuning into the K-Drama Club, you should go back and watch some of the older episodes, subscribe to the channel so you can see us react to the episodes as they come out. Also, if you're into like other K-pop content, you can subscribe as well. But yeah, like I said in the beginning, we had some audio troubles when we first started this conversation, and we didn't want to re-record the conversation because we were in a good flow, like talking about what we thought. So audio is going to be a little weird and not the best for the first few minutes of the episode, but then we'll switch and the audio will be back to normal. Hopefully. I don't want to do this intro again. Please. But anyway, we're going to get into talking about episode 12 of Startup. So let's do it. So much happened in this episode. Like I said last episode, is that episode 11 was full of victories and like happiness and celebration. And this episode was very filled with emotion and like not good things, drama happening.
I guess we should start with kind of when they realize that the company's getting broken up.
Yes, Chi-pyeong was correct at the end of last episode.
Yeah.
They are not acquiring the company to make Noongil like a great app or to take the whole team to San Francisco. They are just looking to hire the engineers.
Yeah. Last episode, they kind of set up how everyone is kind of acting in these situations. Mm-hmm. Like we thought Chi-pyeong was taking a step forward, and he kind of like gets put back into like his little like reserved kind of shell.
Yeah.
And I think in this episode, everybody kind of reacted to every situation exactly how you would expect them to.
Yes.
There was no like nothing happened that I was like, oh, this is like
it was kind of back to business.
This is crazy. Yeah, it was everybody kind of like every situation that came up. The characters' reactions to them were pretty like standard for their characters, I would say. So when they find out they're getting broken up, the whole team is like super emotional.
Yeah. Which this Alex guy, more of a villain than I expected. Like even by the end of the episode, I don't feel like he's so villainous. But in the whole scene where they're really like saying like, yeah, that's what this means. You guys are getting broken up. Well, you guys are coming to San Francisco. He seems like a bad guy. Like he seems like a jerk.
He just strikes me as someone who like doesn't understand the emotional side of it. And also probably does this all the time.
True.
So like he probably does this, acquires companies, says, "Oh, you're not coming, you're coming." And like I'm sure he sees like all these groups of people like react that way. So he's probably either like used to it or just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Or a combination of both, because he's just trying to run a company and do his thing. To him, I don't think he doesn't know the people. Like they know each other, so I don't think it matters to him as much.
Yeah, but he also came to Sandbox, so he knows he's like taking advantage of like younger entrepreneurs. So I don't know, he's lame. I hate him.
Like when he first showed up on the show, it kind of seemed like a mentor, like someone who's going to guide them.
I think he's going to be a cool guy.
Yeah, and he ends up kind of being more like he ends up being the person that kind of tears them apart.
Yeah.
But in that situation, they're all kind of like blaming themselves and blaming each other and like yelling at Youngsan for not following Chi-pyeong's advice and all this stuff.
Does it not seem like the revenge plot, like obviously it has a lot of meaning behind it, but it seems like the purpose of like that revenge plot is to lead to that moment so that he can intervene and not let Chi-pyeong stop the acquisition.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it all led to that. Like that was the purpose.
The whole point of it was to make the breakup like actually happen.
Yeah.
And like, because Chi-pyeong was the only one that had like the wherewithal to stop it, and Youngsan wouldn't let him. Youngsan would not let him.
That made more sense to me this episode.
Mm-hmm. But Chi-pyeong is like back to his normal self, giving it like it is, and telling them like, hey, like you guys made a mistake. You didn't read the contract thoroughly. I think that's kind of what they wanted in that moment, or what they needed. Maybe not what they wanted, but they needed someone to like sit there and tell them like, hey, like you guys can be upset, but this is the truth of it.
And I was a little confused by that. Like it was harsh last episode seeing like the whole montage of him saying like negative stuff. But he was, like, if you take the relationship aspect out of it, he was really acting like a mentor, like being super harsh and realistic. And I can, like, empathize with that kind of mentor. But I think also with, like, the revenge plot and the brother's suicide thing, I think, like, some growth for him is to try to like not temper that, but be able to give advice like that, like real life advice, but also empathize and have like, I guess, just empathy for the people you're talking to at the same time. Like, he's yet to like find that happy medium. But this happens later in the episode. But when Ptolemy is talking to him and he's saying, like, this is what we've always wanted. Like, I always wanted your clear feedback. You've only offended me like 2 or 3 times, but it didn't really matter. Like, it was just for like 10
I got
minutes.
over it like right away when I accepted that it was the truth.
And that's true because she's always looked to him. She's always in the position of like she's never done this before. She's obviously never been a CEO before, and she was looking to him for advice. And he kind of like, I don't know, in that moment he kind of failed them. But now he's just back to normal.
Yeah,
which is frustrating. And we took some heat in the comments for being harsh on Chi-pyeong.
Yeah.
But you know, like we were also harsh on Tosan when Tosan was being extra emotional and like kind of
following her around,
simping her around. You know, like, and they are complete opposites of each other. And in those respects, when they go to the extremes of those opposites, they are like kind of insufferable and kind of fail as people. But I think it's fair criticism to say like he failed them in that moment, especially with this episode. He just comes right back.
Yeah,
and he's like doing his normal thing.
And when they're having that conversation, when he's telling them like, and they're all freaking out, and they're in the Samsung Tech office, he doesn't say anything that's really that bad or like wrong. Like he's telling them like exactly the truth, exactly what he thinks, exactly how it is. But Tosan gets like super emotional and like grabs him by the shirt and is like, do you think this is what we need to hear right now? And that kind of leads to them fighting outside.
That was an aggressive fight.
Yeah, the fight scene was kind of crazy. After the fight scene, like, so Tosan picks a fight. Like, Chi-pyeong wanted nothing to do with it. He's like, this is the truth, and then I'm gonna go and let you guys sort it out. And then Tosan like picks a fight with him pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think that Chi-pyeong takes the kind of high road in that situation by not, when Tommy's like, oh, what happened to your face? He's like, oh, I fell.
He doesn't say, oh, your boy jumped me.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He's like, oh, I fell. Because they worked it out. They're beginning to have like a little bit of a brotherly relationship, which I guess has been developing because you know they were posing as like having a brother-like relationship, but with the fight and everything, they don't hate each other after. They like actually like have a slightly emotional connection after that
because of the grandmother.
Yes,
and
that seems to make it even more real for Chi-pyeong when he's like, oh, but now we're gonna do the app and her eyesight is declining, and that like kind of jolts him awake in that moment.
I think that conversation where they have about where Tosan tells Chi-pyeong that the grandmother's going blind leads to that really great moment with Chi-pyeong and the grandmother at the hot dog cart.
Yes.
And it's almost like the scene at the train station again, from the beginning.
Kind of.
When he's like pushing her away, and then finally he lets her in and like hugs her, and then he says like, I'm so sorry, like all I've done is like pretend I'm the smartest person in the world, but bring people down with my words, and like he like apologizes to her, and she does like the greatest thing that like people can do in that situation, and just like hugs him and like lets him cry and like doesn't say anything. Like at first she's like, oh, you're a good boy, but then she realizes like, oh, that's not the thing that he wants to hear right now. He just wants like to be like heard. Yeah. And so I thought that was a really good scene. It just reminded me of the train station scene when he's leaving for Seoul in the beginning.
It's just sad because the one way he learned to like be compassionate for other people was through the grandmother and through like doing things for her, but even that he was like reluctant to do, but eventually he came to learn that like she was a person like who cared about him a lot and he cares about her a lot. So it's like going back to that, it's very sad to hear him say like, no, I'm not a good boy because I messed this whole thing up. And you know, it's good to see him have that emotion, but that he really only has that emotion with the grandmother from what I've ever seen. He never. I don't. Is this the first time we've seen him like actually shed tears? I feel like maybe he's shed tears a couple times in the show, but he was like really crying for this scene, which is.
But it's like she's like a parent to him.
Yes.
Like, and so he has a relationship with her, unlike any relationship with a person he's ever had. And I think the main thing is that he was telling them the whole time, like, oh, like this app is such a bad idea. Like you don't have the right user base. Like it's not gonna work out. Like this is just a dream. And then when he realized that it was for the grandmother, like he just like it like tore him apart because he knew that he was like trying to shut this thing down, and it was like something that she really needed. So that's why he was so emotional about it, I think. Yeah,
but I would like him to extend that emotion to other people and other things. You know, like maybe that can be his growth. I would hope so, but I would hope that would have happened more by now. But you know, who knows?
Yeah. the scene where Chi-pyeong and Taomi get noodles again, and she's kind of just like asking him for like realistic feedback on like what they should do in the situation.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of like, it's, you know, the contract's good. Like, I don't know what else to say besides you just have to go along with it.
You can't beat them, join them.
You can't beat them, join them. That's what he says. And that leads into the Taomi and Tosan like breakup scene.
Yeah.
And I thought this was Tosan in that situation was so absolutely brain dead.
Yeah.
As to like what was going on.
What a nightmare, because it's like his birthday. Everything that was supposed to happen happened. Like when him and his mom have that talk, like, oh, if she remembers your birthday, that's a higher chance that she likes you. If she gets dressed up and she looks really nice, you know, she really likes you. And all that happens, and it's lining up perfectly. And he is just like head in the book, like focused on this lawsuit thing.
Yeah.
And I think for him, it's not even about the company and about the team getting broken up. It's about the fact that he's going to have to go be in the United States away from her.
Yeah.
And he's just hurting it even more by like focusing on that. And she's trying to be super positive and optimistic and have a good time.
She's trying to create a moment.
Yeah.
And he is throwing away the moment by like looking at like this alternative that to her doesn't seem real.
Yeah.
Like to him this lawsuit thing is like, he's like, this is our one way out. But to her, in her head, she's saying like, this is not realistic.
Yeah.
This is not what's going to happen. Like she has already accepted the reality of the situation. So she says like, we're going to have one day together and we're going to have a great time and we're going to, you know, like enjoy the weather and enjoy this nice meal together. And he just like can't get off it. Yeah, he can't get off it and just like take in that moment. And I felt like watching that whole scene, I was like, oh my God, like he's just like losing his opportunity here. And then you see it at the end when she just kind of like, when she ends the relationship, like any sort of relationship that they had, and he's like all torn up.
Very emotional.
And it's like he just missed his opportunity to like to make a memory with her and like have a moment and like something that they would have shared, and he just kind of threw it away. And I think she was looking at it in that same way too.
It's so odd because I did say that Chi-pyeong and Tosan are like opposites, and they are in a lot of ways, but they do both have like the analytical brains of like they get hyper focused, like Chi-pyeong on business and being an entrepreneur and that thing, like very analytical and avoids emotion. But then like Tosan also like very analytical, very like scientific, but like heavy into emotion, like just lets it completely blind him in a situation. And it's frustrating. Both of those things are so frustrating. They both need to come into the middle, somewhere in the middle.
Find some way to like connect with Taomi emotionally. Like Tosan has done it. Like he's shown, but it goes like almost too far.
Yep.
And I think I almost think that when she recorded that phone conversation when she was sleeping and he said like, oh, like you're my dream. Like I think that pushed her in the opposite direction where she was like, no, that's not, like, you know what I mean? Because I think that maybe she doesn't feel the same. Like he's not my dream. Like my dream isn't this person.
Yeah, well, her dream was the person from the letters.
Exactly, and she brings that up in that conversation. Yeah. So I think that like, because she heard that, and then it goes to the scene where she's like doing her makeup super sad and like looking like trying to look pretty because she knows that it's coming to an end. Yeah. Saha and Chulsan.
We love it.
Saha and Chulsan is actually kind of good.
I not only love the dynamic between Saha and Chulsan, but I love the dynamic of Taomi and Tosan like being like hip to like what's going on and just like being like, I don't know what's happening, like in the coffee shop when he takes the vanilla latte or whatever. I love that dynamic.
They're just like messing around with them, like trying to get her to like admit to anything, but she will not.
Yeah, she says you look like two cockroaches in love. I like that too.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what happens, because what eventually will happen, it seems, is that we are going to get a time jump. We're going to get like a 3-year time jump where the boys go to San Francisco, and then relationships, develop away from each other. Like they're apart, so different relationships develop. And I'm very curious to see what happens. Not only with that Saha Chulsan situation, maybe she'll still be listening to him recite Pi. Like that's so. The thing about that storyline is like when they were together at the Samsung Tech office, and then with this reading Pi thing, like. I could not have predicted those things.
Yeah.
That's what's cool about that. And it makes me like really like that plot line because the love triangle thing, like the main plot of the show is kind of like not predictable, but like you kind of know where it's going and what paths it could go on.
And I feel like it's almost like sort of set in stone at this point. Like I have a feeling like I want to tell me to be with Chi-pyeong the whole time, and I feel like there's no way that happens. Even if they're together after this time jump that we're most likely going to see, I think that's like the show is just going to be like that, falling apart.
Yeah.
So the Saha Chulsan thing is it's a much more positive storyline than like the rest of the show has. I think there's really not a lot of like negative to it. There's no like sadness or like obviously they're gonna be separate now.
Yeah.
But the him reciting pie thing was like weirdly sweet.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
And like I think that she was like, what the hell? But I think like to her like at this point, she loves that it's like so random and weird. Like, and she appreciates that about him
because he noticed her saying like the thing about like losing sleep, like I'll only lose sleep for however many nights or whatever, and that's like sweet of him to notice. Yeah. I'm also glad. Like I did not expect at all that this plot line would be something that kept getting followed up on. Yeah. You know, like I just thought it would be a goofy thing where they have this weird kind of relationship, but it's getting like. It's getting its day. They're getting their little scenes, and I love it. Yeah, I want more of it.
At the end of the episode, when like Tosan's walking around in the rain, and like he's remembering the letter that Talmi wrote when she was young about like wandering and like letting the rain fall on her and all that stuff. And then he gets to the end, and she's like, at the end there was like this beautiful rainbow, and he looks at the sky, and there's no rainbow there.
Right.
And then he like breaks down, and I think that's kind of like that was like his moment of realization that like everything isn't like
life is not a fairy tale.
Yeah, exactly, and it's not perfect. And she was like, I saw this rainbow, and it almost felt like it was going to grant me a wish. And he knew that like what he wanted, his wish was not going to come true.
It's not how life works.
Yeah,
it's going to have to work itself out. But that should not be the last thing we mention, because I think important things happen for Talmi and Injae in this episode as well.
Oh, that's right.
Like, you know, they still have the little bit of bickering thing going on, but it's important that Talmi is actually able to talk. I don't know the character's name. She's the head of Sandbox. I don't know her name.
Yeah, it's like Yoon something.
Yeah, but Injae goes to her and tells her, I'm not the girl in the swing, it's actually my sister. So Tommy's able to have that conversation with the head of Sandbox, and they have that nice sweet conversation about her father and how she likes fried chicken, and like flashing back to those first episodes. It was so crazy. It feels like so long ago. But I'm glad that they were able to have that moment. And of course, and Injae has a moment away from Tommy with her team when the team is like kind of like snickering about how Samsung Tech got broken up and acquired or whatever, and she turns to her team and says like, "What? This is funny? Like no, like stop snickering and all that stuff." And Injae's company has a job opening for like a strategic planning position, which now that Tommy is out of a job, CEO, this is actually a job that she could fit. She's obviously not a developer or anything, but she could definitely do this job. And of course, at the end of the episode, she ends up applying and going to interview. And it's still a little like more hostile than I expected. Like the sister's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" Yeah. Which I didn't expect. But this will be an interesting thing to see develop, especially with a time jump, to see like, I don't expect if 3 years go by for them to still be snickering and still be like...
Yeah, if Tommy works for her, I think that they will have a closer kind of relationship.
Yeah.
Or it'll just be like a boss-employee kind of relationship where...
Maybe.
But we'll see. But their relationship will definitely change, and hopefully it's for the better. I think that we'll see that they get along much better.
Yeah, that would be great.
If she does work for her.
Because that's like the main... That's how this all started, right? With these sisters getting split up and whatever. So
yeah, that's like the whole show is like them splitting, and now they're going to come back together and see how it works.
It became a secondary plot to the love situation, but it would be great to see like the sister relationship maybe take some of the spotlight coming up.
Yeah, the love triangle thing is getting a bit like, I'm not like over it, but it is like super exhausting with just like, because
it's a little back and forth.
Yeah, and like I just feel like nobody ever does the right thing.
Yeah.
It's like frustrating to watch. Like,
it is very frustrating to watch. And if anybody knows where we can find the video of Chulsan reciting Pi, the full video, just let us know in a comment down below. I think they should release it. But hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let us know your predictions about future episodes and your reaction to this episode in a comment down below. Again, apologize for the audio problems at the beginning of this episode, but hopefully you made it through this far and enjoyed it. And if you did, give this episode a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more K-Drama Club. We're looking for suggestions for the next K-Drama after we watch Startup, and also for like more K-pop content as well. If it's something that you're into, subscribe to the channel. But for now, I'm Nick.
I'm Joe.
And we're Nick and Joe. Have a good one. Oh, and Duncan.
Yeah.